Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a ranking every JoJo parts thing. I've watched parts 1 through 6 and I read parts 7 and 8, and this has been on the back burner of something that I've wanted to do for a while. But I figured now's the time to do it because, JoJo is one of my favorite anime and manga of all time. So I figured I would just jump right into it. And I'm going to be spoiling some of these parts, so I'm going to be saving parts 7 and 8 for the end. And if you, even if like where they rank, I'm gonna save them for the end. So like, don't worry about spoilers. I'll tell you when to stop looking. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Number 8, part 1. I feel like this isn't a very controversial statement. Part 1. Listen, it does its job. It's there. It's there for plot. It's there to like set the story of the Joestars, the Joestar lineage. Doesn't really do much else. And one thing I want to say is that I don't want to go too in-depth onto these because I plan on doing an in-depth discussion on every part. Now, whether or not I actually do that is up to God if He decides it. So, but yeah, part 1. It doesn't waste your time. I don't think. It's only like 9 episodes. It's worth the watch. I know a lot of people say you can skip part 1. Personally, I don't recommend it. But I would understand if you did. Jonathan's cool. Speedwagon's waifu. Dio is a good villain, but I think he was better in part 3. And part 1. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. But it's just the worst one. Now this one might be controversial. Part 2 as number 7. Part 2 is everything that part 1 did, but better. Joseph is way more interesting than Jonathan. The one thing I'll admit is that I don't think Cars is as cool as Dio. And I think that's one of the things that hold part 2 back for me is the villain. Wamu is cool, he's cool and everything. But I just think that Wamu's cool and the other 3 just really aren't that cool. It's the funniest part, Jojo running away. Nigananda yo, Smokey, all that. I feel like, and here's a problem I have with part 2. The cast, besides Joseph, I feel like do nothing. Like, Caesar just literally was there to die. Lisa actually did nothing besides throw them into a pit and have them climb up. And, I know she's hot. I main her in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven, if that means anything. But yeah, part 2, it's good. It's definitely better than part 1. Next up, I don't know which one of these I want to rank higher than each other. So I'm going to put part 6 at 6. Part 6 is really good. I think it's underrated. A lot of people really don't like part 6. I actually really like part 6 personally. Like, I like it, like, I know it's only one tier above these two, but I like it way more than those two. I like JoJolion. I like how Jotaro is portrayed in part 4 and 6 more than I do in part 3, where he's like a mentor instead of like the protagonist personally. And they're in the prison. I actually really like the prison setting personally. It's one of my favorite settings in JoJo. I mean, it's not Morio, but it's good. It's good. The villain Pucci, he's pretty good. I really like Honestly and Weather Report. They're some of my favorite characters in JoJo. Hermes, I can take her or leave it, and Emporio's pretty cool. And I just think it's good. Like, I don't really have much to say. I really like, what's that one stand? Limp Biscuit, which is also known as Flaccid Pancake, which is one of the best, what's it called? One of the best, localization names, personally. Up there with, Filthy Axe at a Reasonable Price. I really like how Dio was portrayed, how he had this whole plan all along, the Heaven Plan. And the ending with Pucci, where, like, Emporio used Weather Report's stand in order to defeat him, I thought was very unique. Although it was kind of weird how they were in his stand and he was able to put a new stand in him, which is kind of weird, but part 6 is good. Part 6 is good. Next up, we got part 4. Morio is the best setting in JoJo. I think it's better in part 8 than it is in part 5, but Josuke is cool. He's a punk, and this is where Jotaro became more of a mentor than like a protagonist. And I think Kira was the best villain in JoJo. until part 7. And I think the cast for part 4 is kind of what holds it back for me. Cause like, you know, Rohan is cool, and like Koichi's like kind of cool. His stand is really cool, but like Koichi himself he's okay. But then like Yukako, and then like Okuyasu. I mean, Okuyasu's funny, but he's like he kind of does nothing throughout the entire series, if I'm being honest with you, except until the end when they're fighting Kira. But I really like how, like, you know, we see these hands all throughout Morio, and then we like, I always forget to turn my phone on silent whenever I'm recording. I really like how we see these hands throughout Morio. I really like how Yoshikage Kira is like, what's it called? He's like, what's the word I'm looking for? He's like shown throughout the story, but we don't know who it is until like it's revealed that like he's a serial killer. And I think that's really cool. You know, as I saw the town of Morio, you know, Remy Sugimoto, their whole like drive for doing what they do. Yeah, that's good. I like it. Next up, we got part 3. Part 3, I mean, it's an adventure. Like, I'm really not the biggest fan of, like, full-ass adventure anime, unless it's One Piece. But, I mean, part 3 has this vibe where it's with the boys, you know? Like, listen, I'm always down to be with the boys. And, like, at the end, when like, Jotaro's looking at the picture of all of them, and it's like, yeah, that's the homies right there. That really hits, because, like, Jotaro was, like, this stalwart, like, I don't want to say, pessimist. No, not pessimist. That's the word I'm looking for. He was just this, like, emotionless guy who just wanted to beat Dio's ass. And he did beat Dio's ass, and I really like the fight with Dio, personally. And I don't know, it's the vibes that I get from part 3 that make it the best. Not the best, but that are the best part of it. And, yeah, part 3 is good. You know, it's the most iconic part for a reason. I think Joseph is better in part 3 than he is in part 2. That might be a hot topic, but I don't know. The only thing that I think is holding part 3 back is, I'm sorry, but I do not like Kakyoin. I'm sorry. Like, I like the part with you know, and he's playing video games, but other than that, I just think Kakyoin's one of the most boring, like, Joe Bros there are. But yeah, so next up we got part 5. Part 5 is really good. I think it's the best part out of all of the parts that have anime. I think Giorno, he's a little bit boring, but like his stand is really cool. I really like at the end where it's not Silver Chariot Requiem, where it's Gold Experience Requiem, and I think Diavolo, you know, say what you want about him, I think he's a decent villain. I think he has one of my favorite designs as a villain. One thing I also never mind. I was about to say I forgot to bring up Yoshikage Kira, but I did. And then the cast for part 5 is like one of the best casts in JoJo, because they were already a team before Giorno stepped in. And I just, man, the fight where they're on the train, the fight against the Oasis and the other guy who's like has cancer as his thing, or like mold, whatever. What's the other one? The fight against Metallica and Doppio. I just think the stands and the fights in part 5 are just the best that we've seen in JoJo, personally. And Bucciarati's like, that's the homeboy. That's the homeboy. So now, if you just want to know where these rank, I am going to be talking spoilers about both of these. So if you just want to know where they rank, that's where they rank. I will give you 5 seconds to leave if you like don't want to know spoilers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so part 8. I think the first half of part 8 was the best JoJo part. Was like where I enjoyed JoJo the most. Like the vibes in part 8 genuinely are immaculate. I really like the cast in part 8. You know, Yasuho and I didn't really like Joshu, but he grew on me. I think the JoJo protagonist, Josuke, also known as Gappy, also known as Josefumi, also known as Yoshikage Kira, I think he's one of the best protagonists in JoJo. I'll say it. I really like his personality. I really like how he doesn't have this memories. I really like the plot of part 7 where like they have to get the Laka Kaka fruit. I just I just really love part 8, okay? The only thing I have against part 8 is that the stands in part 8 suck. Like there are so many stands where it's like guy is far away and it's like a remote stand and they're just far away and they have to fight this guy. And it's just repetitive. Like that's where part 8 falls short, but like and I think the villain himself is he's a little boring, but like his stand is OP, but it's like OP in a really cool way cuz like his whole thing is that it's calamity and that it's like stands above all. And while it may not seem powerful on the outside, it's like his stand actually defies logic, which is really cool. And speaking of stands, I really like Paisley Park, and I really like Soft and Wet personally. And yeah, but in part 8, I think part 8 is just awesome. Like the fight against poor Tom was one of the better guys far away remote stand. And then the fight between Jobin and Josuke, where they're like using the Beatles, I really like that fight. But I genuinely think if you haven't read parts 7 and 8, you're doing yourself a disservice, so just go and do that. And then at number 1, we have part 7. I don't need to tell you how good part 7 it is. It has the best villain. It has one of the best Josephs. Josephs? It has one of the best JoJos. Johnny is so good. And then I think it has the best Joe, bro. Gyro is so good as a character. He's good as a mentor. He's good as a character on his own. He has so much drip that it's ridiculous. You know, Funny Valentine is an amazing like villain. You know, in the beginning of in part 7 where he's drawn, he's like ugly as fuck. And then at the end he's drawn like really cool. I really like it. Like the fight where like I guess it really wasn't a fight, but like one of my favorite moments was when like they found the girl in the tree to get one of the corpse parts. And like they had to like spend whatever they got from the girl. And if they didn't spend it, then they would end up in the tree. I don't know why, but I've always really liked that fight. And the fight against Civil War, I really like that fight too. But then it has the best final villain fight. The fight against Johnny and Funny Valentine. Like seeing Tusk Act 4 and seeing D4C Love Train, like it's immaculate. If you please, like, listen, I understand that there are some of you who don't like reading manga. I get that, okay? I truly do understand that, and I was that way too, but like, if you really like JoJo, please read parts 7 and 8. You, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, parts 7 and 8, I think, are so far above the other parts. And it's like, it's not even close. Like, parts 7 and 8 genuinely are, like, the best parts that we've had in JoJo, I think. And it sucks because they're the last ones. But, yeah, it's a list. If you have any comments you want to add or anything, just let me know. I'll be sure to read them. So, yeah. See ya.